manner. It's probably a surprise that anyone thinks that I was at Hillsborough. But obviously I'm from Liverpool, come from a footballing family. My school backed onto Liverpool's training ground. In the days when they weren't paid millions of pounds, you used to be able to go in and sit and watch Liverpool play, get their autographs, etc. And you're either Liverpool or Everton if you come from Liverpool. But I think you have to look at the context of all what we're talking about, the 80s, in the era of what it was. It was Thatcher in power, trying to roll back the years of nothing really in terms of gains of labour, but putting in place anti-trade union laws. I started work at the age of 17 in the post office. It was a closed shop. We went out on strike by a show of hands. You expected the police there every time you went on strike. Every time you had to strike, you had to fight with the police. Usually a manager would sit there writing down copious notes of who was stood on a bigger line, etc. And we had no mobile phones. And that is true of these when we talk about what happened at, for the miners and for Hillsborough. We didn't have mobile phones, you know, and it all opened up in front of us. But what it was, and I still believe today, it was class politics. Football was seen as a working class sport. You were treated like this whenever you went to any ground. And myself, I was a season ticket holder. I'd been in Rome 3 years previously, where we were told to go on buses, and all the windows got put through when we were in Rome. I was at the Heysel Stadium, which was about the state of the stadium, and the fact that, you know, it just crumbled apart as soon as there was too many people in there. And then I was at Hillsborough. And you do daft things when you support football and support other things. You sort of repeat yourself. So the year before, we'd been at the same ground, playing Nottingham Forest at the same semi-final. So my dad's mate had a car, we goes over, we park in the same spot, at the same time, go to the same end, stand in the same place, and I'm in Leonard's Lane. And because I'm short, I don't go in the front bit, which are all the desks, where I'm up on the side wing. Right, and you're there. And you're watching the game, so you know the pre-match, what's going on with the pre-match build-up. And interesting things, and I'll never forget it, it's probably the first time publicly I've ever spoken about it, and this is actually the after effect, not on me, but on the whole of the city, in terms of what went on there. I am one of thousands of people who witnessed what went on at Hillsborough. We knew the truth, never believed we'd get to it. We knew the truth, you were there. So my moment of, you knew people were dying, was there was a beach ball, you know, like a blow-up beach ball, and all the crowd below were all patting it up and beating it up, and then all of a sudden it just dropped on the heads, and you realise then, now, they couldn't move, they couldn't get their arms up to even get that. Right, next minute on our terrace, and we had people by us, and it was the police have opened the gates, and all within seconds, the police cordoned the middle of the playing field, the middle of the pitch. They didn't unlock the fence, they didn't unlock the doors, they treated it as we were going to have, you know, go onto the pitch. So you can't do that, so they did the middle. And then you've seen the reports where people are climbing up. In fact, the Liverpool fans were taking the hoardings down, getting people out to the other end of the ground to try and get them some help. And you were there absolutely helpless, watching what was ensuing. But in terms of where the deaths were, they were in the tunnel. So all you've seen is the faces, and if you remember those newspapers the next day, faces of young kids, because that's where you went if you were a young kid. You went the exciting bit. Do you know what I mean? Where you could, you know, you had the shouting and all the rest. They were there. So anyway, that ensues. You're just like literally screaming, and you're screaming at the police. That goes on all day. Then they empty the ground. And I can remember walking back, and I've never seen anything like it. Literally grown men howl, absolutely howling and screaming at the police. You fucking bastards, you fucking shit houses. Because they're there on their overtime, and at that time, you remember, if you were working class on strike, the police like to tell you, we're earning loads of dosh, we're all right. Use the methods of Northern Ireland, bring them onto the mainland in terms of policing any picket line, any resistance. And we goes back, the people of Sheffield opened their doors, let us use their phones. All the phones were engaged because then you just blocked up as soon as you went. We got in the car and went back over State Pass. Within half an hour of being in the car, the radio, it was the police opened the door. Half an hour later, it was fans have stormed the football pitch, etc., etc., etc. To then what was in the Sun. And today, I still could not pick up the Sun newspaper and it's lying on a train. You know, to actually say, when you're watching fans giving people kiss of death on the pitch, when they're pleading with the police to open their gates to let people out, when they're pleading to get people out, one ambulance on, and at that time I believe the guy got, you know, formally disciplined for disobeying orders by bringing the ambulance on. They actually killed people by what they did and how they handled it, and that was about class. That was not about an accident, a disaster, it was about your scum, you know, you're working class, you're all from Liverpool, do you know what I mean? And there's a history within Liverpool in terms of all the things that were going on around that time, in terms of riots, in terms of councils, in terms of other things. So basically, they could say that to the rest of the UK and everyone goes, it's Scousers. I remember going to conference in Bournemouth. You couldn't, they actually had notices on pubs, no Scousers allowed. And that was the ill feeling after Hillsborough that went on for 20 odd years. I mean, Boris Johnson still repeated, you're a bunch of whinging bastards from Liverpool, just get over it. And that's where you come to the campaigns and what campaigns mean. And it's not just the family wants justice, it's every single person who was in there wants justice, because we knew what happened, we knew what the cover-up was, we knew people were alive at 3:15. You know, but the other thing that happened is, as we then went home, it was Sunday, went into work Monday, and they say things like a city mourns, and I never knew what to mean, a city mourns. I'll tell you what I did on that Monday when I went to work. Everyone was on the bus, subdued, no one said a word. You went to your office, the door opened, and people breathed a sigh of relief that you walked through the door. So they knew where you were, but you know, the fact you come through the door was like, oh my God. But you sat there, and the phones were going, who's died? Who's injured? And within the post office, we had people who had died, and we also had people who were seriously injured and never recovered from the crush in terms of suffocation. But things that come out of that was joint football games with Newcastle to raise money for things, you know, to make sure the Hillsborough never went out of anyone's mind. And the family kept up that fight. And I know because it's one of those you could talk about so much during that period, but I'll just talk about the feelings since the report has come out. Because they carried on the family's campaign and the supporters have supported them, the clubs have supported them, all the rest. And I don't believe that they ever believed the corruption was being bad as what the corruption was and what it's come out with. You know, in terms of the statements altered. But then the most horrific thing is, some of those people are still serving in the police now, and not one person came forward. So the conspiracy around it is, how can hundreds of officers know they altered it, watch television for 23 years and programmes about injustice, still can't come forward and say, we were wrong. We altered that, we were intimidated. And when they talk justice, and I know the families have been very, I would say, dignified in their want for justice, so they come out very politely afterwards, we'll consider, we'll see where we want to go. And we do know what they want. They want justice and people jailed. And they want to know what Thatcher knows. Because I'm not being funny, Thatcher was the heart of it. Don't tell me a cover-up like that never went as far as Thatcher. And it definitely did. And it's about also that period of the smashing the working class. So when the results come out, there's actually like as if 23 years of feeling, you know, aggrieved has been lifted about we were right. We were honestly right, and the forces and the balance of forces at the moment is we can prove it. We can clear every single person's name and talk about it was policing, it was police brutality. I mean, but the lessons learned from Hillsborough, they have gone wide and far in terms of any disaster. At that point, when people went to identify the dead, they put the photographs up on the wall and didn't even separate them by sex or age. So if you were missing someone, you had to look through every photograph of a dead person. We've learned lessons from that. We've learned lessons that you can run on a pitch to save yourself. You shouldn't be sat back doing that. But the police, and in terms of the government, and in terms of the Tories, cannot get away from it. And it doesn't matter whether it's 30 years, 50 years, or 100 years, or whether we now have mobile phones, media, etc. You know, we need to have those justices, because they help the struggles today. They do help the struggles today, because they prove you can win. You mightn't win on the first go, but 23 years later, they're winning, and they're proving them right, and they're getting some closure on it. But it will never go away, because it's an injustice. I just wanted to finish on in terms of what does it mean to us today. And it does mean the right to protest. It means we have to fight for the right to protest, the right to go out on strike, whether you've balloted or not. If you need to, you should be able to do it without being the threat of police brutality. But what the police have tried to do is reinvigorate themselves as it could never possibly happen. That was in the olden days, you know what I mean? That was, you know, we had no training, we had none of this, you know, no one's PC. Not true, because it's happening today, time after time. And actually, in some ways, more subtle and more sophisticated now. And you have to say, sorry, the police are an arm of the state. They will defend their state when it comes to it. And if you're working class, you're more likely, whether it's sus laws, stop and search and all the rest, you're more likely to be attacked by police, by the state for defending your rights. And we are in a period about defending our rights. I don't know whether anyone's seen, I think Birmingham, they've occupied the Birmingham Council chambers today because they've got a meeting on. That we need to do, because the reason they try and get it that you don't win is so that you don't fight. And we have to say, you have to fight no matter where you are, and you have to go the other extra push, the extra man. But solidarity is key. Without support, without unity, without people around you, you make your own job harder. And the thing is, and I mean, I'm proud, I'm sitting there and thinking, well, we're supporting that, we're supporting that, we're supporting you, you've got a fringe meeting, a conference for yourselves and all that. So I am proud of a union that is looking to support all these campaigns, but we need to make sure that gets to our members. It's not about leadership, it's about people who are there getting attacked day in, day out, whether it's living standards, whether it's in terms of being bullied at work and that, we have to do that. So we have to be united, we have to deliver solidarity, we learn the lessons, and for a lot of people, it's about time that everyone knew what went on and that the fact those people were right to protest, right to fight, and to be honest, it's the state that smashed them and we have to reclaim our history about it. Thanks very much.